My name is Anne. I'm a pharmacy manager at Houston Methodist West Katy Hospital, and I am the alumni or alumnus in 2006, and glad to be here and giving back.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Jesus?
Iniguez. I am a fourth-year family medicine resident in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And I'm originally from Seattle, and grew up there, went to college there. I'm moving back to Seattle to run a clinic in Des Moines, Washington, this summer.
That is amazing. And let me just make sure we are streaming perfectly. And we are good to go. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started, guys. I'll ask you the first question, and we'll definitely just kind of go back and forth, and we'll just kind of talk. And like I said, guys in the audience, if you want to just jot those questions down into the chat box, we'll get to them as well. So first things first, guys, I just want to talk about the importance of having a mentor. You know, what about a mentor makes that, or having a mentor makes it important? And you know, what does having a mentor, you know, do to set you on the path to success? And we'll start with you.
Sure. I think having a mentor is very important in a sense that, you know, they will guide you through your path career-wise, and they've been there, done that, right? So you're being able to, I think everybody has a different perspective and expectation of a mentor, but it's essentially someone who can guide you through a path that you're interested in, or just maybe something that you want to pursue in the future. And it may not be the exact same, you know, person for every single thing. So that's something you also want to consider, is that you may have many different mentors for different aspect of your career path, but also professionally and personally. And I think it's just overall important to keep you accountable on your goals and helping you to clear the path for you all possible.
Definitely. Jesus?
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll echo a lot of what Anne was saying, and especially in regards to having mentors that look and feel and are totally different, different relationships, close relationships, professional relationships. Absolutely, they come in all shapes and colors. And the other really important part is what I mentioned too, is you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? They clear the path, and you make a lot less mistakes and spend more time moving forward. You're going to still meet the resistance at the end, but that's where you want it. You want to get to where the limit of your own capabilities will be, so that you can start making those, you know, crucial mistakes that you'll learn from and even move forward, right? A lot of mentors, that's, you know, in my mind, that's kind of what I hope to just put people on my shoulders, so that they can get to where they need to start learning and start challenging themselves. They don't need to make the same mistakes I made.
Yeah, and I think one point Jesus make is really important, is that just being able to have someone there with you, walking along your journey, and they may be ahead of the game, but it could also, you know, it's not age differential. So you could be an older individual, but you might look forward to someone who's younger than you are, but have the experience. So a biggest aspect of it is experiences that come with it too. So I think if you are humble enough to really seek help, and I think that's where you're really trying to find those mentors, officially or unofficially through a formal program, or it could be a meetup group, or it could be in an association, whatever facets that you felt. And another important thing Jesus pointed out is the ability to be authentic and genuine, that you really feel that you connect with that individual, right? Building relationship, and you know, you're not spending time to get to that relationships where it's not a transactional. It's like you're able to provide something, contribute, and then see what the mentor can help you from that standpoint.
Awesome. So I want you all to get a little bit specific for this next question, and just what was your biggest reason for seeking out a mentor? Along your educational journey, just what was it about, the ability to gain a mentor? What brought you to that, and just why did you look for one? And Jesus, you can start with this one.
Thanks. What's really great about talking to GMS groups is that we all are kind of cut from similar cloths. We all have come through really challenging circumstances and haven't had the same opportunities as a lot of other folks, and so talking to this group in particular, we all are paving kind of our own path in a lot of ways, especially for those of us who are first generation college students, who are immigrants to the country, who were living around the poverty line growing up. When you are, especially when you're entering into a new academic venue, and my parents, for instance, are farm workers. They were farm workers their entire lives in Washington State. They had no frame of reference, right? The only thing they could tell me to do was like, hey, go do this. They weren't going to show me how to do it. They weren't going to tell me what to do. And so either I was going to figure it out on my own, which takes, you can do it. A lot of people figure it out on their own. But in my mind, I think probably because I have so many brothers and sisters, I'm one of 11, and I'm on the younger side. They as siblings do look out for you. And I learned early on the value of having someone to be close with, who knows you very well, who has maybe traveled some of the same steps and can motivate you when you fail, and can help you get back up, and someone you can ask questions to. And interestingly enough, those people know people, right? And specifically when I was applying to medical school applications are extremely comprehensive and daunting, like 50 pages and a bunch of essays. My sister's husband used to work for Harvard enrollment, and so he was very, very experienced and knowledgeable. And if I was proud, or if I thought I could do it all, if I would have never reached out and had that opportunity for someone who's so experienced to help me put together an application. And that's what mentoring is all about, someone who was able to, we built a relationship where he was able to help me in very crucial part of my life and in part of my academic process. And so that's one portion, that's one mentor I've had, but I think for me, very pivotal in my career thus far.
Awesome. Okay, Ann.
For me, with GMS, and I know for going back as far as when I started my journey, looking to colleges, and honestly, this teacher, I still keep in touch with her because that's how impactful she is in influencing kind of my career and just overall like my professional life. Was my high school teacher. She believed in me and seeing things in me that I didn't see it myself, right? Like kind of what Jesus was saying, like I'm a first generation immigrant and first generation college student, or going to be in college soon in like a year at that time. And honestly, I didn't think big. I was like, okay, I'm gonna save money and go to community college and just do something and earn money. Like just very basic. I really didn't have any goals set for myself. And with this, she was kind of my informal mentor. I didn't really see her as a mentor because I didn't even know what the word is back in the day. Like, but I look up to her for advice, and she gently nudged me like, hey, Ann, you should apply for a scholarship. You can apply to this university. I know you can get into this university, like with your track record and what you've done, you can do it. And I'm like, what? like, there's like, you can apply to the University of Texas at Austin and you can get in. And like within, for those that don't know, Texas UT Austin is well-clean public school in Texas. And at that point, I'm like, that's like up there for me in the pedestal. And I'm like, I don't think I can. I'm like, you gotta trust yourself and do it. I was like, well, I don't have money, like it's financially, I'm going to support myself because my parents, actually I'm 1 out of 9, so not close.
Wow.
And we have a family as well. But my parents looked at me and said, we will not be able to support you for college. And when they told me that, I'm like, okay, then I guess I may not go to like a big university because I won't be able to afford. So she was the one that pushed me to apply for the Gates Millennium Scholarship. I didn't even know it existed. So kind of that long story, just really having someone there for me. And again, I didn't think of her as a mentor. I didn't really seek out or formalize the relationship as mentorship, but she sees something in me that she saw something in me that I didn't. And I felt like, I'm like, well, she said I can do it. Okay, I'll give it a try. And I applied to the scholarship, and she helped me, editing my essays, and just the application process was pretty long too for the scholarship. And I got it. I was like, the day when I got that congratulations letter from Gates, I was just like, is this real? Like,
Yeah.
is this real?
Yeah.
So my biggest reason is just having a mentor is that she, like I said, I didn't seek out one mentor, but she was there for me every step of the way. And like I said, it's been almost 15 years since high school, and I still keep in touch with her because that's how much she influenced my life in general, but just overall, like professionally, but just my life as well. And I think that's important to have someone in your life to know who you are and believe in you and see things in you and your strengths that you may not even see yourself. Without her, I don't think I'm here talking to you guys.
Awesome. And I think you both brought out 2 big points, Jesus. You weren't too proud. You took it. You didn't say, "Oh, I'm just going to do it on my own." You actually, listened, humbled yourself, and and took that path. And then Anne, you had mentioned that she gave you that nudge. Sometimes we want to do something, but we generally need that assistance to just get us moving, get us going. Okay, you can do a little bit more than what you're doing. So that's incredible. And I think mentorship, both of those things go hand in hand, because sometimes, it's almost like we know we can do it, but we just need a little nudge sometimes. So I'm glad you brought those points up. And I'll ask you guys, what quality, well, the question is what quality should a mentor have, but I'll just say, give me 2 qualities that you find that any mentor, that anybody who's looking at being a mentor, if someone's looking at somebody to be a mentor, what are the 2 biggest qualities that mentor should have?
I think for me is passion. Again, my high school teacher, her name is Miss Goldie, shout out to her, is that she's very passionate in what she does. And even now as a retired teacher, she's still in her efforts to help with the community and just, that's, you can just see it. So I think passion is a huge thing. And I think I've learned a lot from her, and I'm attribute to her because she's my quote first formalized mentor. But as I progress through my career, every stage, kind of as you mentioned, you have someone there to help you one way or another to professionally grow. So I think having someone who's passionate in what they do, and you can sense it, you can sense their passion, they love what they do, and just it's infectious. And I think having a mentor who's that passionate about their career, their, just being there for you, I think is really important. The other piece is being patient. I would go back to my first mentor, and then all the mentors that I have had in my life from undergrad, actually start out to pharmacy school to now I'm a manager. I have mentors by the way, and patience, because they help you go through some of your challenges, and they sit down with you and listening to you. So I know you asked for 2, but ability to listen, right? Like when you sit down with them, is you really doing the talking. You're there to facilitate. They may ask some questions, but it's really you driving the conversations. And sometimes we get to the solution when we start talking too. But they are really patient with you and really trying to solicit things out of you without giving you a directive on, oh, this is what you should do. It's just okay, based on that, I think this is what you can do.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Jesus.
Yeah. The first thing I wrote down was able to listen, and I totally agree. I think a lot of people who will expect mentors to, depending on the person's drive, they'll expect mentors to tell them X, Y, Z, to do this and this and that. But I think everyone is at a different place of learning and need, and the only way that the mentor is going to find out where that person is if they listen. That's first and foremost. And depending on the mentor, they're going to be helping you in a lot of different parts of your life, not just professionally, but if you're going through a crisis, if you're if you're having an emotional crisis, if you're going through family stuff, you know um, and mentors telling you to do this and this and that, and you're not listening because you just lost your whatever. I think first and foremost is being a good listener. And I kind of the other one is it's difficult to nail it down to two. I think the first thing I think about, other than listening, is that person usually has something that you want. Something about either that person, their position, or they whatever it is, that something that they have that you want. They have a great marriage, they have great kids, they're happy, they are energetic, who knows, right? There's something about them that you are drawn to, and you want for yourself. That you need to have that in order to really to have that back and forth. When they speak, you listen, and if they listen to you, it can be a strong relationship. So yeah, they got to have something you want, I think.
Got it. Okay, that is good. And so, so kind of taking that a step further, clearly they have something that you want. So, talk about the frequency of the communication. How often are you meeting? How often should you be talking, whether it be emailing, text, phone calls? Just talk about that, the communication for a second. And we'll start. Jesus, we'll keep it going with you.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it depends. I think it depends on what it is, what the project is, how big the scope is that you're getting mentored for, how close your relationship is with your mentor. If this is one of those lifelong mentors that Anne was talking about, that she still communicates with them regularly, it might be text messaging him frequently, or when every time you're back in town, you go get coffee and talk about life, or when you're in a crisis situation. If it's a more formal, more discreet, I know GMS has been good about kind of assigning mentors for people who are coming into the program. It can be, I think sometimes it's nice to be more regimented, because life can take over, and if you don't regiment those discussions somehow with check-ins once a month or something at a minimum, oftentimes you don't really get the full benefit of having a mentor. I think in the initial stages, and this is my personal preference, in the initial stages, having a more time-intensive investment up front to get to know each other, to really get to know each other as much as you can, as much as is comfortable, is best. If you're doing it cross country, I mean, now with Zoom and video conferencing, you can really
Definitely.
get to know someone a lot better than before. But yeah, I think hour-long talks could be pretty easy when you're talking about each other's lives. And when you're getting to know each other, once a week is pretty easy to do when you really invested for a while. And then after you kind of get your bearings, and it depends on the project. If it's for instance, I think I'll take my last example of writing my application to medical school. We were texting, emailing. I was pulling all-nighters, so I was emailing in the middle of the night. It was like no holds barred. And that if it's appropriate, that's appropriate. So anyway, but it just depends to me. It depends. But I think frequent upfront, at a minimum, you got to be frequent upfront to get to know each other.
Yeah, I agree
That's
with
great
Jesus.
advice.
Yeah, I agree with Jesus on that point regarding, and I think it really depends on the relationships and what you need, right? Like, I think, let's say when you're in college, you need to build a relationship with a professor for a project. It's more defined. So you probably want to do it more regularly, like weekly, depending on the projects or whatever that you try to accomplish, like get a job, like an internship. So a weekly or bi-monthly, those type of to be more structured. And it could be as simple as, and I would recommend it's actually trying to change it up. You don't have to do in person every single time, and especially this coronavirus is not recommended. So, but you can do it remotely in a sense of do a mix of, hey, first trying to get a face-to-face on the first meeting if possible. If not, then of course use technology to get some sort of FaceTime in there. Then interchange that being on the phone or having the mentees yourself emailing updates. Just say whatever that was the follow-up or needed to be follow-up on the first meeting, make sure you do by email. And kind of, 1 month you can do email, next month could be in person, and another month could be over the phone, just to change it up. And I think the biggest thing when you are a mentee is being respectful of your mentor time. Oftentimes these individuals are, they have a full life in terms of their career, their family, whatever else is going on, their involvement. So be respectful of their time. So if you really say, hey, I'm gonna set out for 1 hour a week, you are actually the one taking initiative. Like you should put a calendar invite onto your mentee's inbox. You should be the one proactively asking, put things out for the agenda, like, hey, for next Friday, and I want to talk about how to get an internship, and these are the internship I've looked at, and these are the questions I want to ask for the interview as a mock. Just be very specific what you want, how long is that conversation going to be. Don't hold your mentor captive for half a day just because you can and it may not be. So be very, very intentional from that standpoint. And I think that will also help them understand that, okay, they will help you, but of course, right, everybody's busy and like life gets in the way. So you just want to be intentional. One tip I would give is set a recurring meeting. So let's just say that first meeting, setting our expectation, ask your mentor, what is the best way to communicate with you? Is that your work email? Is that your personal email? Do you prefer phone calls? Do you prefer text? Because everybody communicate differently. I think with millennials, we tend to be more tech savvy, so text wouldn't be an issue. Or calling each other, we probably don't call each other as much compared to older generations. So what is their style in terms of preference for communication? And then the biggest thing I want to share is follow up. So, don't show up at first meeting and then you're basically MIA for the rest of the year. And then you probably send out an email like, oh, hey, it's been a year since we talked. I'm actually looking for a job now, so you can help me for a job. It just doesn't look very genuine. Like it just, even though you may preface it, oh, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Like you do all this fluff, but in the end, you're like, so now I need a job, right? Like it's not genuine. And going back to Jesus' point about building a relationship is a long-term investment that you put in, and even as infrequently or as once every 3 months, just a check in, be like, hey, Ann here, we chat last month, and this is what I did. Just even like a 2-liners, just to keep the mentor in the loop. And I think I've been in scenarios where I help someone with something. And for me personally, I find it very rewarding to know what was the outcome. Like, did you get the job? Did you get the internship? Did the interview went well? I mean, what happened, right? So it's kind of going back, aligning, like when you do an interview, make sure you write thank you cards in the same way. Just loop back in, like, what was the outcome? Because these individuals spend time and invest time with you, so they want to know, how did that turn out? Like, how did the conversation come about? I know that's a pretty long answer, but I just really want to keep folks in mind that be proactive, be intentional, and be respectful.
Awesome. That's great information. I want to kind of piggyback off of that. So if you could kind of like have a conversation with your current mentor or former mentor and tell them exactly the specific impact that they had on your current success, what would you say to them?
Good thing with this one. Jesus, you want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hesitate to give it a specific example about a very long-term relationship. I think a lot of GMS folks, I think, struggle in in the beginning of life, going through high school and things like that, because of the lack of mentorship in a lot of our communities. And GMS has like helped tried to help develop and teach how to go about finding mentors and developing them. But so I guess my specific example would be more someone I met during residency after medical school. Um, a full open-hearted relationship where we kind of share everything, um, family crises, marriage, kids, the balance between work and professional life and happiness. Someone who, so a little bit about him, he's 12 years older than me. He has 3 kids, a wife who's a stay-at-home mom, and he's a surgeon who does family medicine, and he works constantly. And he definitely had a lot of aspects of his life that I liked, and he was always happy. So we've built a relationship over the last 4 years, and definitely for me in residency, I hit a lot of walls where I had, no one I'd never done this before. I didn't really know what the balance was going to be for myself. So, and everyone's going to figure that out in any career that they go into, is, what is this balance between professional life and work and school and play and family. And he was always there for me to bounce my stresses and questions and anything that I was going through professionally or otherwise. And he never led with a solution. He always absorbed my information, and oftentimes, honestly, most of the time, he didn't have a solution. And he was just there to say, hey, this has that sounds tough, you're gonna get through it. And he might share, he's a really good storyteller. He would share some things that have happened to him in the past, something like that. And he has helped me develop my own sense of balance, with family and work, and when to say no to things at work, when to say yes, and when to like pull a little bit from time from your family in order to make some investments elsewhere. And in my opinion, that's going to help me be happy. And success is a part of that, but also being a good father and husband, to me, is a very important part of happiness. And I think he's helped me with that.
Awesome. That's a great response.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think for me, with one of my dear mentor who already passed away, but he's my residency director for my PGY1, PGY2 master program in pharmacy administration. And he just one of those where he's very passionate about what he does. And when you're with him, you just know that, he's all about patient care. Like whatever he's basic, he worked at the VA, and he's the director in outpatient. So whatever in his initiative to do to make sure the patient are well taken care of, he will run through walls after walls, climb mountains to get it done. And that's the type of personality that he does. And then he took a great care of us residents. Honestly, I call myself recovery workaholic because I did work a lot, and I felt like for me there was no work-life balance. It was just work, right? Like, and that's what kind of instilled in me from my parents. Like they, again, first immigrants, and that's all they know. So I've learned that from them. So I think with him, he really taught me like the work-life integrations. That yes, this is important and patient care is important, but you have to take care of yourself in order to be a great caretaker. And then one thing that he was telling me, you have to take a break. Like you need to rejuvenate, unplug, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're gonna burn out, and then you're gonna suffer, and then your patient gonna suffer, and then your family gonna suffer, and then it just doesn't look good, and then you're not gonna be happy with what you do, and vice, versa. So, and one last thing he told me was, and you're replaceable. And at first, I felt kind of hurt. I'm like, what? Like in terms of the workplace, he's like, you're replaceable. This place will go on without you. Okay, so be okay not having that guilt of when you're leaving work, or be okay that you can take the vacation, because these four walls, they will stay on. They will be here. Things will keep going. It may not go the way that you wanted. It may not go the way that you envision it to be, the way that you want it to be perfectly the way it is. But guess what? It's okay. So don't strive for perfection. Strive for, being able to be supportive and in terms of really invest in yourself. So I was with him for 2 years and continue on. And it really hit home in terms of his passion for patient care. But he literally had to come on Friday at around 5 and kick me out of my office. He's like, you gotta go home. I'm like, okay, I'll go home. And he'll literally just stand there doing this. Okay, you're going home yet? I'm like, okay, I'm wrapping up. It's like, your computer's still on. So, it takes that kind of mentorship from me, right? Of course, after a while, but we build very, very genuine relationships. And up to even now, I still keep in touch with his wife and check in on her. And I think I own a lot of my happiness to him, in a sense that I'm not saying I'm perfect in terms of work-life harmony, but I am much better. And that's why I call myself recovering workaholic. From that standpoint.
Awesome. That's great. That is great. And we're about 5:35, so we have a great time. The next two questions that I have kind of go hand in hand. So the first question is, we've heard you guys' story about being mentored by somebody. Have you all taken the avenue to actually be a mentor to somebody?
I can take this one first. So yes, absolutely. And it's my way of pay it forward. I have many mentors that we talked about that helped change my life and change me professionally and personally, and to be where I am at. So actually starting in pharmacy school is when I start taking mentees. So when I was like a second year pharmacy student, I already mentoring individuals on the first year. When I was a junior in college, I started taking freshmen. I was in a program called Tip Scholar, similar to the Gate Scholar. I would take students that first year, first generation, starting college, and just show them the path. And I still keep in touch with those mentees. So every stage of my life where I can seek to take them formally, I would, or informally, like people would just come to me and ask questions, and we just start building that relationship. Right now, as a pharmacist, I take on students at my site, and I encourage, take as many. At one point, I have students every 6 weeks, so it does get very tiring, but I just enjoy in that very, very much. Like I'm very passionate about teaching and just spending time with them. And then I'm also involved in pharmacy organizations, so that's another way to stay involved and get involved. So with that, I also take on students as well as other new practitioners or new pharmacists that are coming. And I think it's just a way to give back. And then I really found my calling. I realized I love mentoring and teaching, so I started my coaching coins in terms of really help empower people to live a meaningful life. So I really focus on career and finance on my YouTube channel, and that's how I connect with more people. Because one thing I realize is that when I take students on my site or on my rotation, it's just one-on-one. But I realize the power of social media and YouTube, and I can impact more individuals doing things like this, or through YouTube where, I can impact thousands, millions of people.
Awesome. Okay. Jesus?
Yeah, I also have been involved in mentoring in multiple levels, either through GMS formally a few times in people who are pre-health or just first generation who were living in the local area that I was living. One of them is in med school at Brown, which is really cool. Then more informally during med school, one of someone I was mentoring was at the medical school I went to. There was not a lot of there was a lot of diversity in the classes at the school, but the infrastructure itself wasn't supportive to a lot of the kids who come from underprivileged backgrounds. And so I thought it would be helpful if I tried to like reach down to lower classes who were maybe struggling with the same structural racism things that I had went through during medical school. And one of them ended up marrying my brother, which I think that's a success, but we'll see how it turns out. And then during residency, the residency itself, medicine is very hierarchical, and so you kind of get more structured mentors who you get. You're the senior for a team or so forth and so on. And so I love that portion of being a resident. I'm really going to miss that when I graduate this summer, because you literally go through the same process, and someone has gone through multiple times, and you can give them all these pearls, and people are just, especially intern year of residency is a really, really difficult time. So I really enjoy that part of residency, and I'm going to miss it.
Awesome. That's great. I had a follow-up question, but I think you guys answered it for the most part, but I'm going to ask it if you guys have anything to add to it. And then we'll kind of go into Q&A. So why is it important for individuals to become mentors?
Yeah, so I think part of what makes this group special, again, is that we come from backgrounds where a lot of times we're doing the first thing that our family has done or whatever. And a lot of times we end up making a lot of mistakes that take more time, that discourage us, that make us go different avenues or not reach the potential that we may have had. And it may be more difficult to do the same thing that someone else who had more privilege can do quicker. It may be more difficult, but it's possible. And it is more possible, easier, more pleasurable if you have a mentor who can help you do it. And not saying that you can't do it alone, but more people will succeed, especially in these people of color who come from backgrounds where there's not a lot of doctors. For instance, in my case, I'm the first doctor in my family. I'm the first doctor of any friends that I knew growing up. And so, who was I didn't have any mentors like that growing up. And so for me to now be able to reach down into those same communities and be the doctor that can mentor people to do things that they may not have thought of before, it is going to allow people the opportunity to, pull their family into different opportunities. I think for me, I practice medicine to help people be healthy, but it's really at the end of the day to help people be happy so that they can pursue their interests and challenge themselves, and so that they can pull themselves out of poverty in this system. I think at the end of the day, that's how we're going to do it. We're not going to rely on the government. We're not going to rely on, we're going to have to help each other. So
Definitely.
That is very well said. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think there's a saying, right? It takes a village to raise a child. And I think that analogy can mimic what we're saying. It really takes a village to build successful individuals. And through that is all the mentorship. And, going through the program, like I said, in high school, I really didn't believe in myself that my teacher did. And with that, it really helped me. And my parents, bless their heart, they worked so hard and they really weren't around just because they had to make money to make ends meet. And I think they didn't even know what the concept of school is. Like, they tell me to go do schoolwork, but honestly didn't even know what that is or how to help me, or you know, and I'm the first pharmacist in my family. My brother, who's older than me, he actually went back and do pharmacy. So that's really like awesome feeling to say, wow, I inspire my brother to help and pursue on to pharmacy. But just, you know, really the first pharmacist in my network or circles, and then slowly branching out and really reaching out and helping and understanding that what does a pharmacist do? Like, I don't think my parents know what I do as a pharmacist. Like they don't really know that. Like, what do, like, okay, you work in the hospital, and what do that, you know? So like I work with doctors and nurses to help make sure that our patients getting the medication they're supposed to get and prevent any adverse outcomes. And they think that I own all these drugs. So, you know, like, oh, you get free drugs. I'm like, nope, don't want to go there. That's not what I, you know, so all jokes aside, but it's really being able to be there and like professionally develop and helping those and really be able to see who have kind of like similar background, but also in the same struggle that I was, or in individuals that may not see things in themselves that I can see. And I was like, hey, I was there. And let me tell you, you can do this. And it's, you know, it's hard, it's not easy, but it's achievable. And you just have to trust yourself, and you just got to pull yourself out of this and help each other, right? So I think that's why it's so important to get a mentor. But when you have the ability to basically pay back or pay it forward, do so, because there's so many others out there looking up to. Now they're like, oh, what does it take to be a pharmacist? Like, what is that, you know, school looks like, and what's that process look like? I mean, a lot of things may have changed, but the foundational in terms of going through that process is very similar. And I think being able to be there and be present and giving people hope and inspire them and empower them to say, hey, take this action because it's doable. And really give them, say, I did it. And, you know, I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I didn't have a car for 7 years in college and pharmacy school. I walk everywhere. I take buses. I mean, I live very frugally. Like, there are a lot of things like financially that I had to learn. And that's why with my channel, I want to share all the struggle that I did so others can kind of learn from it and empower them to say, you can do it too.
Perfect. That's awesome, man. And thank you all for those answers. And now we're going to go into Q&A. I have about 6 questions that I'm going to run through. So we have about 15 minutes. So the first question is going to be, you know, how can we start the mentoring experience? You know, how do we find them? How do we reach out to them? How do we find somebody to be a mentor?
Sure, I can take this one, and Jesus, feel free to chime in. So I think first is reflect on what are you looking for in a mentor? What do you need help with? Are you someone who's looking to get into a university, or are you looking for an internship? Are you looking for a job, or looking at, you know, what does a pharmacist do? What do the doctors do? What, you know, where are you at your career stage, and what are you looking for? And I think once you finalize in terms of reflecting what your wants and what you're needing, I think that will help you to know, oh, maybe I know, GMS has this program, and can go look through the profiles that way and reach out to folks. And LinkedIn is, like, I can't emphasize the power of social media. LinkedIn is great for connecting people professionally, especially if you say you're a GMS scholar, and trust me, other GMS scholar is willing to help and be there for you. So really reach out, but be specific, be intentional, and see how you can get those. I say Instagram, there are many Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, really utilize the platforms that's available to you. You know, back in the day, I'm dating myself, Facebook was just starting out. Like, I didn't even, Instagram was not even in like LinkedIn, which is like a new thing. So I didn't have all these available to me really at fingertip on the mobile phone or on the desktop. You really have to go out there, engage people. Another great aspect is if you're in school right now, talk to your faculty, your professors. They can serve as great mentors. They've been there, done that. So and pretty much, and also out of the formal school setting, kind of the social structure. So at your church, at a local organizations, if you're involved in, undergrad association that they bring in speakers, and you really resonate and feel like that speaker talk to you and you feel like you have a connection there, reach out to that speaker and say, hey, I heard you at this XYZ meeting. I really want to learn more about you. So there's just so many different ways, but the biggest thing starts with you. What are you looking for? Because you can have various different mentors in different stages of your life and what that would look like. And personally too.
Yeah.
Jesus, anything?
Oh, that you covered it all. That was great.
Well, Jesus, I'll let you have this question then. How do you know when you're ready to actually start mentoring others?
You're ready now. You were born ready. Somewhere out there's someone who needs to know what you know. Whether you think that you don't know anything or you're just in the beginning of whatever process you're going through, you've already learned so much to get to where you are. Someone else is looking someone else is out there looking for that. Whether they know it or not, you're ready. So if you find the opportunity, it's, honestly, it's just, don't look at it so formally. You don't have to look at it so formally, just network and build relationships, and those things grow organically. Yeah, be around. If you want it to be a more formally, make it known. Go to like, for instance, if you're like a freshman in college, go to your old high school and go to some of the teachers there and be like, hey, I am doing this here. You can get a business card if you want to be that formal, and just be like, hey, I want to help kids get to college. Here, hand these out. Or go to their like career nights at high schools. There's certain avenues that even if you're like a freshman in high school, you could probably mentor kids in middle school. So you're definitely ready. You're always ready.
I love that, and I echo it. You are ready. At each stage of your life, you look back, you probably be able to hand down someone something that they may not know. And, in college, you may be going down to high school students or middle school, or if you're in middle school, there are things you can do in the neighbors to help each other. Like, I'm just saying, like, right, like you really, even when you're in high school, you can impact other, like when I was a high school student, I went and did like tutoring for other students. And in freshman year or in middle school. So you are ready. It's just maybe the relationship may not be as formalized as like mentor-mentee, but if you're giving people insights and you share your experience and they learn and they grow as a leader, you're a mentor.
Awesome. Okay, a few more questions. I want to make sure that we're respectful of everyone's time. So guys, I'm going to get you out of here by 6. So next question, how many mentors should you have? Is it helpful to have multiple needs met from different mentors?
Short answer, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think there's a right number. I think you are open and you network and you share of yourself, and things will grow organically.
Yeah, and I would caution, try not to make it so qualitative in terms of like, or quantitative, like, oh, I need 5 mentors for being a pharmacist and 3 mentors to get into pharmacy school or get into university or get an internship. Don't put it that way. Think of it as a way to build relationship. Focus on the genuine human nature of, I'm going to be intentional and get to know Jesus for who he is, not I'm going to get to know Jesus so he can help me to get a job. Even though the purpose is the same, it's building relationship, but how you do it is very different, and how you deliver that, the way that you build that relationship is also different. Versus, I just really want to get to know Jesus, and he seems like someone I can definitely learn from. Eventually, things grow organically that he may help you get a job. Versus, I'm going to go to Jesus and trying to get a job. And so it's the mindset and just how you come across. And really, I cannot stress this enough, is be genuine. People can sniff through when you're being fake or just not genuine. Like, your mentors are not stupid. They know, they've been through life, they've been through this journey, and they can sense when you're being authentic and genuine versus when you're just trying to get through the groove and just go and not building that relationship and be more transactional. So focus on the relationship.
Awesome. Okay. So you guys talked about, the commonality that's shared between GATE scholars. So how do you navigate, well, as underrepresented students, how do you navigate academic culture while maintaining your cultural identities and values?
Academic culture, I think you mean like this secular society, that oftentimes is all about friends and partying, and especially if you're new to college, or if you're a first generation, you're going to see things that you've probably never seen before. So looking back, so I made some mistakes when I was in college, and looking back, I'd say I would say hold on to your family values that got you where you are first. And whenever you feel unsure or unsteady, talk to your family, talk to whoever. If you had a mentor, if you were lucky enough to have a mentor in high school, talk to your mentor. And where you focus, this is my experience, where you focus your time, your free time, is really going to influence the decisions that you make when you have your freedom in college. I'm assuming college. So try to join, if you have a lot of time at the university or college that you're at, try to join organizations that are in line with some of the values that you grew up with. And if that's religious values, if that's gaming, if that's things that you valued in when you were growing up, those, you can hold on to those values. You can kind of transition if you felt that some of the things that you were doing were juvenile before, and you're not really into that anymore. I would challenge that a little bit, because I'd say transitioning from who you were in high school to who you're going to be for the rest of your life is a process. And if you feel unsteady and unsure, to reach back to like the people and the things that you used to do, and that can ground you. That's all I got.
Yeah, and I'm a Vietnamese American, so being a Vietnamese American is really important to me. And again, a lot of my values are instilled in me by my parents. And I went to Austin, no friends, no family at all, and it was a whole new world for me then. And I think what's important is that, kind of what Jesus mentioned, hold on to your family, your cultural values. Make time to spend time with your family, like even like when you're going out of for me it was out of the city, so it was about 2 hours, so it's not bad at all. But being intentional, really plan to come home and spending time with them. When you're a freshman, you are going to go home a lot more often than when you're a senior. That's going to be real. And just being able to be intentional, like, okay, I'm going to work around things like this month, on this weekend, I'm going home to spend time. Because, when you're surround yourself with your families, they remind you of, your upbringing and where things are. So that's one thing. Be intentional about making sure that you're spending time and going home, visit your folks, even for a day, even a few hours, even for dinner, whatever it is that you're able to spare. The second thing is when you go into college, there are a lot of different organizations. I mean, there are probably way too many organizations, too many choices, right? But really distill down to look at their mission, look at their goals, look at the members. Does it resonate with what you believe in? And if it does, that's probably the right organization for you. And when you're a freshman, you probably join a lot of different organizations, and that's fine. You can actually, what I call, sit in to test out, right? Like, you can actually sit into several different meetings and just fill it out. Like, oh, do I gel with these individuals, like, from that standpoint? So you can actually test things out for your first year or first semester. And then when you actually click with one organization that, again, going back to your culture, your values, stick with them. And honestly, you don't have to be involved in everything that you're interested in. Be intentional and be involved in things that you going to make a difference in an organization. So I make a few mistakes in college as well. I probably joined like 10 different organizations because I felt like, oh, I'm interested in everything. This is so fun. And then I realized that you spread yourself so thin because guess what? You also have to make sure you get your keep your GPA up because there's a certain GPA level that you need for your scholarship, right? So just make sure you focus your academic, but being able to spread yourself enough and not too thin, because at that point you really haven't evaluate the process and like evaluate what that looks like. So I pretty much pared down to I want to join women. I was interested in medicine and I didn't know what it was, like being a physician or being a pharmacist. So I joined women medicine and it gives me a wide variety of kind of a palette test, right? Like giving you different options. And so you can join a broader organizations like that just to help you. And they do a lot of different things for cultural activities. I know friends who joined, more like Vietnamese American Association and things like that. So whatever resonate with you based on the organizations, join that, be a member, be active, be an officer, make impactful thing. Don't just join to join, but join to build relationship by being a part of community member, being a part of officers, because that's how you really gonna build relationship.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I will give out just this last question. You guys can just shoot out some one-liners or just some examples. But as a mentee, how can I assure that the relationship isn't one-sided?
That's a great question. It's really difficult for you as a mentee to know that you're fulfilling the mentor's goals. I would hesitate for you to make sure that for you to check that box off per se. What I would hearken back to is what Anne said about being genuine and you really getting to know that person on the other side, because oftentimes that's enough for the mentor to just get to know you and to see you succeed. And that's enough oftentimes. And I think you sharing of yourself and it lets the mentor live a little bit through you, which is a really, really wonderful part of mentoring. And just go from there. I think be as genuine as you can and be as honest and open as you feel safe and comfortable with. And that'll be enough, I think. Don't, and I would say there's some things to stay away from, like don't miss appointments, don't be responsive and be respectful. I would say that there's some etiquette involved in mentoring, especially as a mentee, and especially if the person is much older. Sometimes the people who are very old school are much more rigid in their relationships. So I would just say that there's some don'ts. Like there's some definitely like have etiquette and be respectful. But I wouldn't say it's your responsibility necessarily to make sure that the mentor is being fulfilled, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to understand the question a little bit more, but if whoever writing this question, if you felt like you are the one who really take the rein on a lot of things, which you should be as a mentee, but you felt like your mentor is not responding or not being able to give you as much insights or feedback as you would want, then what I would do is just be transparent and honest. Like, hey, I really talk to them one-on-one, and I think this is where in person or like a face-to-face type of modality. Like, don't write them email. Like, I feel like I'm being one-sided mentee. Like, do not write email. Set up a conversation and said, hey, this is how I felt. I just want to make sure I'm meeting up to your expectations. And what are your expectations, right? So make sure, remember, mentorship is a two-way bridge, not one, two. So the mentor gonna get something out of it, like either through living through you or being able to know that they have helped you in one way or another, and knowing that they have done something good because some other people have done that. And then as a mentee, you learn from their past, their mistakes, they give them, guidance from that standpoint. So, or get guidance from them. So just make sure it's a two-way bridge, that this is an ongoing relationship, and you're not feel like you're the only person doing all this, yet you have no output. And maybe if you continue, you hit a wall where this mentor just doesn't reply to email or not reply to your text or your phone. So just reevaluate, like, is this their preference? Just kind of always ask the 5 why, like, why are they not responding? Like, from that standpoint, and then check in with them. What are your expectations? What's the best way to communicate? How often you want to communicate? And let's set up a recurring meeting. And if you do all that and they're still not being responsive to you, then I think it's a good time to find a mentor, honestly. So that means that they're just not invested in you and they're not interested in you. And I think you don't have to spend that much time going after someone who doesn't sees the value to mentor you.
Awesome. So I want to leave you all with the final thought. We did the poll for the registration, and 78% of you guys, said that you had a mentor before. And out of that 78%, the numbers broke down to about almost half and half. 50% of you guys said the relationship was so-so. 45% of you guys said the relationship was very successful. And then I think 5% of you all said it was not successful at all. So I hope that this webinar has given you some insight on how to go about continuing those good relationships, how to build those better relationships, and how to find a relationship to start off with. So I want to take this time to thank our panelists for coming in and joining. If there's any follow-up that anybody needs, feel free to shoot me an email. But other than that, guys, thank you for having us, and be safe. Have an awesome, safe weekend, and stay healthy, guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I do want to say, if you have, if anybody reaches out or has further questions, please feel free to email me with anything, and I'd be happy to move, continue chatting.
Definitely.
Likewise, I'll share my contact information, and the best way to contact me is on my YouTube channel and on LinkedIn. Those are the 2 most active forms that I use. And we're here, you guys. I know that you're probably sometimes afraid and scared, but you know what? Just reach out. I saw my YouTube channel is called Coaching Coins, and Justin can probably send that out to the team.
Yep, I'll send it out.
Awesome. And yeah, just be sure to connect with someone. One thing, final thought about mentorship is that you are going to be the one that needing to take the active role, the driver role in the mentorship relationship. And you should be the one worrying more about what that will look like and be able to be invested than your mentor. So just make sure you do your due diligence. But in the end, everyone I've known so far wants to help you. So don't be shy, don't be scared, because I was scared to go talk to a pharmacist. I'm like, oh my God, they like God, right? Like, really, they are the nicest people when you start talking to them in great place.
Awesome. All right, that is great. So see you guys later.
See ya.